Hi everybody, Matt Mariglia here with another part of our Google on the Beach course. This time it is Fun with Forms. You should see on your screen the slide presentation that I have called Fun with Forms. I'll be using this as a reference to go through the things that I'd like to teach you. So let's get started. First of all, like most of our courses, there's a video and then there's some beach work. So for our start during the video, actually while I'm talking or you're watching this, if you would open up a blank form, I'll show you how to do that. And I have it listed here. In your drive, go to New, then More, then Forms. And there's another way too, and I'll show you that as well. As I am showing you these things, hopefully you can have two windows open and you can try some of the things in the form that you opened. And then at the end, I'll have a quick little assignment that's the beach work. And if you tried all of number 2 as I'm doing this, if you're not familiar with Google Forms, this will be one heck of a lot easier. So before we move on, let me talk about why we would want to use Google Forms in our classrooms or as teachers. The real-time or immediate feedback and data that it contains is a super important part of using Google Forms. You can gather information on your students, on their learning, on their parents, on a lot of things in what I like to call a wall-less classroom. So we can send these forms out or link them and they can be filled out not necessarily in our classroom because they're online. And there's so many uses. I've seen people use them so many ways. There's a lot more than what I have listed here. Quizzes and tests you can use them for now, entrance and exit tickets, digital sign-in and sign-out sheets. You can keep a record of just about anything educational using a Google form, flipped classroom assessments, and there's just a lot more. So let's get started. I've broken this up into 3 parts. Questions. I hope you have some questions as you'll see this. Hope you have some more questions. And then ordering from the menus. A lot of times these bleed into each other. Hopefully I will keep them all separate, but that's how we'll organize. So let's start by opening up a Google form. So I'm going to go into my drive, and there's 2 ways. One I listed on the sheet, the other or on the slide presentation, the other I'll show you now. You can find Google Forms by clicking in your waffle grid and scrolling down a little bit. Sometimes they're hiding down towards the bottom. There's forms there. Or the most common way by clicking on New, going to More, and finding Google Forms. So we're going to open one up right now. So as it's spinning there, let's take a look back at our slide presentation, and I can show you what I'm going to teach you through this form. First off, let's give our form a title and a description. So whenever we open up a form, we want to make sure we give it a title and any directions or description that we have. We can do this by clicking here or up into the corner up here. So I'm going to call this On the Beach. Notice when I click off of it, it's going to take that title and pop it there, and it's automatically saving. Once I've typed that title, notice I have a folder here that's in my Google Drive, and I can star it just like I can files in my Google Drive. So we gave it a title. Let's give it a description. Now, your description is typically what you'd have when you hand somebody something in class and there's directions on it. I call it directions rather than description, but I might want to type in here, please fill out the following form, like to capitalize it, to the best of your ability. So that's going to appear underneath that form. Let's go back to our slides. We want to now begin to populate the form by selecting question type. So when I have this untitled question here, it's going to start with a multiple choice. But when I click on it, okay, notice when I click out of it, that goes away. But when I click on it, I have some options here. And there's many different options. I can have a short answer, a paragraph. I've never really hit the limit on short answer or paragraph, so I don't know what they are. They just look a little different in terms of how long the answer is. So if I hit short answer, you can see it's a short answer text. If I hit paragraph, it'll say long answer text. So it's really up to me. Multiple choice. So there's only one technically answer you can choose. Check boxes allows me to check more than one. So if I want to do an all that apply, type 1. Drop-down menu. I can use that if I'd like to pick something. I can upload a file. I can do a linear scale of 1 to 10. I can do a multiple choice grid with 2 columns and rows or more than that. Checkbox grid if I want. For your purposes, I would stay away from linear scale or underneath linear scale down. They get a little more complicated and a little more advanced. If you're used to these and you want to try these out, go right ahead. I won't stop you. But I would stick with these 5 up at the top when you're new to forms, especially working with students. It might be a little bit easier. So I'm going to start out with just a multiple choice question. And I got to title the question. So I might say things like, what is your favorite beach toy? So I put my question mark in there, and then I just simply click and begin to fill in my options. So I might say football. I might say sand shovel. I might say floating device. Okay, so now I have that written in there. So let's go back. So I selected the question type. I got a little bit ahead of the game and did the question title and question options. Now formatting our question. So once I have this in here, there's a lot of things I can do with it. As you can see, I have a lot of image things. I have X's here. I can, if I say, I don't want football first, I want it last. Once I see those 6 little dots there, I can drag this and move it in the direction that I want, okay? I also have an add other option. When I click on this, it will have a multiple choice, but it'll say other. That's where the person can actually type in what it is that they want. So if they don't use one of these 3, that's a nice one to add if you can't think of them all and you might want to have something added in. Over here on the side, we'll look at this menu in a moment. Down here, I have some things that I can click on. This will duplicate my question, make it go twice. So once I hit that, it duplicates it. So if I'm just making a lot of multiple choice questions, hitting that will save me a lot of time. I can just type in the change of the question. I can click on each of these and change it. If I don't want the question anymore, I can trash it. But before I do, notice how I have the 6 dots up here as well as I do on the sides when I'm going to move something. So I can actually drag this question and re-switch the order like that. That makes it really, really nice. I can trash the question by hitting delete, makes it go away. This required button is something that for your form you are going to want to use. I don't want people to skip questions, so I'm going to click on this little toggle button and it's going to turn all those things on. So now people have to answer it. They can't submit the form unless they've answered the question. I also have 3 little donuts over here where I can actually add descriptions to the question, just like I had a description up here. I can add description to my question. I like to call this description, I told you that I called this one up on the top here directions. I like to call this one hints. It used to be hints. They changed it, and that's going to give me something underneath. I might want to give them a little hint and tell them to be honest. Okay. This is go to the section based on answer. This is a little further down the road, a little more advanced. We're going to leave that one alone. If I want to shuffle the option order, I can click on that. It'll shuffle the things that I have there in my multiple choice. There is something else that will appear when you do short answer, and that is, I'm going to duplicate this real quick to show you that. And I'm going to choose short answer. Then I'll go down to my 3 donuts down here, and you'll see I have something called response validation. That's, again, another little advanced part of Google Forms. It's very useful. If I want exact answers, exact spellings, exact things, when I click on this, it's going to let me choose, I want a number as an answer, and I want it greater than this, and I can even type in custom error text if the people don't put in exactly what I want. So that's a little more advanced, but it does work. There are some uses for it. You use response validation if you want to do choose your own adventure Google Forms and things like that. Again, we're just having a little fun with forms. I'm showing you the basics. It's really can become really detailed, so I'm not going to get too much into that. So managing your form's responses. So I've got a title, I got a question type, I've done the basic ones, I've got title and response options, and I formatted my question to look the way I want it, and now I'm going to manage the responses. So I'm going to show you what this form looks like by simply going up to the top and clicking on the all-knowing eye, which will say preview. When I click on this, this is going to show me what my form will look like for the person that is looking at it. So there it is. I have my multiple choice. I have this. Looks pretty simple. I'm going to take my form myself, okay, which is something I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to take my own form. So I'm going to click on an answer. I'm going to type something in. Again, it's the same question twice. For our sake, I'm just trying this out. I'm going to say floaties. I don't even know if that's how you spell it. I'm going to hit submit. And it tells me my response has been recorded and if I want to be able to submit another response. I'm going to show you soon on how to change that screen if you want to. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to go back. Now up at the top tab, I have my questions, but you can see now I have responses. So when I do multiple choice and I click on this, multiple choice will be shown in a pie graph. And responses will be shown, short answer, they'll be listed. So sometimes my responses look good this way. I can look at a summary of them, or if I have multiple people take responses, I can hit individual and it'll show me every single individual response. Over here is something I'm going to ask you to do with your form is to create a spreadsheet for it. When you click on this, it's going to ask me what I want to title that spreadsheet, and I want to create a new one to go along with my form. It's going to name that spreadsheet the same thing as the form. It's going to call it On the Beach Responses. And now it tells me when it was taken, at what time. And there's my questions. And there are my answers. My suggestion to you, and this is very important, don't create your spreadsheet until you're done with your form. Let me say that again. Don't create a spreadsheet, an attached spreadsheet with your form until you're all done editing your form. If you try to fool around with the questions and drag the different order, it will mess up your spreadsheet. So we don't want to do that. Okay. Again, don't do it like I just did, and I'm showing it to you just because we're following it in the slides here. So let's move on to the next one. I hope you have some more questions. So I kind of showed you how to add some new questions. I'm going to show you another way to add a questions. I'm going to show you for section headers if you want to separate your form. Show you how to add some pictures, add YouTube videos, and because of these section headers, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So let's go back to this form. Got some questions there. So if I don't duplicate my questions and I want to add a new question, I can simply use this menu on the side. Okay. Notice my menu here looks different than the menu I have here. Did that on purpose because I wanted to show you that this is brand new. I can import questions now from other forms. So if I have an old form and I'm creating a new one, but I want to use stuff from other forms, I can use that now. I also have title and descriptions here. I have images, YouTube videos, and then I can add sections. So we're going to hit each of these buttons and I'll show you what they do. So I'm going to add a new question by clicking this. Again, it just adds a basic multiple choice question. I can add questions one of two ways. I can hit the duplicate, or I can just simply hit that plus button. So let's choose drop down this time. And I'm going to say, how hot is too hot for the beach? So I asked a simple question. First option, I'm going to put 85. Second option, I'm going to put 90. Third option, I'm going to put 100. Now, just for your own, I guess your own viewing, I'm going to hit this preview button and show you what a drop down looks like. So now when I drop this down, there it is. It's very similar to a multiple choice. I get asked all the time, why would I use this rather than a multiple choice? It saves space. So if I have a lot of questions and I want to get them on one page for people to see, I can choose the drop downs and it'll kind of stack them together. So that's the main reason why we want to do that. Now notice my beach responses, it added the question at the end. So I'm still okay. Again, I click on import questions. When I click on this, it's going to look through all the forms that I currently have, and I'll be able to import questions from there. So let's find one here. You can see I've used a lot of these forms for things. Let me click this, I don't know, this applied digital skills class I'm teaching. So notice a sidebar will come up, and I can pick which one I want. So let's say I wanted the names. So I'm going to click that, and I'll click that. I'm going to hit import. And boom, it adds those questions that I've already created into my form. That's a nice little addition to Google Forms. Let's click on this add title and description. So when I click on this, if I need a title before I ask a series of questions. So let me drag this up there, and let's say my title would be personal information. And the description is, please fill this out. So now that's going to put a little title there. Now, what does that look like? Again, let's click on our preview again to see what it would look like. There's my title. It just pops it in the middle there with this and then goes down. So those are quick little, they're not sections, they're just little titles, especially if you're creating a quiz or you're switching up, or you're doing something from multiple chapters. You might want to put a chapter 1, chapter 2. It's a nice way to organize the form. This is if you want to add images. So I'm going to click on this Too Hot for the Beach one, and then I'm going to hold this image down, click on it. It's going to ask me if I'd like to add an image. So I'm going to search for an image, and I think I've done this in other videos. I've simply searched for beach videos or beach images. So let's pick this one. I'm going to hit select. It's now going to pop that image in my question, okay, or underneath it. And I might want to call it beach. And I want it to appear above the question, so I'm going to drag it up above, and it's a separate title, and it gives me a menu for that. So I can have hover text over top of it. Hover text is important, especially for those that are seeing impaired. So I might want to say picture of the beach. It also has 3 little dots on the side here that I can click on. It can center the picture. It's pretty big, so I don't have to worry about it too much. I can change it or I can remove it. So let's see what that looks like in our preview pane. So there's a picture of the beach, and then the questions underneath it. So I can add pictures. These are good for the beginnings of forms. If you want to add a photo in, or you have something you want someone to see, it's kind of neat. For whatever reason, my hover text isn't working on my Mac. It's probably because it's on preview mode. So that's image. Now let's say I got, let's go up to our beach toy question here. Let's say I want to add a video. Okay, I can search for videos right into YouTube. So I clicked on beach sounds. Who knows what's going to come up? Calming seas. So this is really long. These are super long. So maybe I want to find something quicker. Let me see. Ocean. That's probably going to be just as long. It's pretty wide open. This is only 3 minutes. Again, I don't know what a lot of these are, so I don't want to mess around, but I'm going to click on that one there. That looks like a reggae thing. I'll pick this 9-minute one. Hit select. Now it's going to pop that video in there. Again, I can put it in the center. So I might want to ask a question. Let me put the video in front of the question. Let's bring it all the way up to the top. Let's say I wanted them to watch this video. So I can click on this, and I can have a caption to this for the video. So what I like to do is when I use these, I like to say ocean video. And then down here, I might want to click watch video and answer next question. Now, when you're making these, notice there's no numbers. So if I wanted to say watch video and answer question number 4, I got to make sure that I go in and I number my questions. They're not numbered ahead of time, so I have to type in those numbers if I want to number my questions. This looks like more of a religious video than anything, so that's basically how you add a video. So let's say I wanted to break my form up in terms of viewing. Oops, sorry about that one. I wanted to break my video up in terms of viewing. In other words, I don't want one page constant scrolling. I might want to have different sections. I might want to ask 3 questions in the first section, 4 questions in the next section, and so on. So this is what this giant equals sign is, even though it's a section symbol. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to add a section right here after the video. Now, I don't like that popped it right there, so I'm going to move it, and I'm going to put it up in the front and hit save. So now it starts out with the first section. So I might want to call this introduction. Again, you might number these by chapter, by unit. You might number these by whatever. So I might not want to put in a description. I just want to show you what that looks like. So this is section 1. Now, in order for me to have 2 pages, you notice how I moved the section up there. I have section 2 down there as well. Okay. So when I hit preview, notice all I see on the screen is the first section. I have to answer everything. I'm going to answer everything real quick. I'm going to say 100 is too hot. I'm going to put my name in there. I'm going to put my first name in there. I can type right. Notice if I don't fill something out, it's going to let me know it's required. Now, because I have it all filled in, I can click on that next button. Now it takes me to the next question. Now, I don't have a question associated with this, but then when I get done with that section, now it'll let me submit. So I can change the pages. This is especially good if you have longer forms, if you have 20, 30 questions, you want to break them up into sections so that people don't feel overwhelmed and are scrolling way down on the page and lose their spot. So I'm going to hit submit. That's going to add another thing to that. You can see I got more responses here. Notice I don't have responses to the first one because that wasn't there when I took it. But there it gives me my choices and all my data right there. So let's go back to the form here. Adding YouTube videos, adding section headers. I'm going to show you one more trick for adding pictures, which they recently added. I can not only add pictures in the middle, but I can also add pictures in my questions. So let's say that beach picture that I put up in front of the question, I didn't want there. So I'm going to get rid of that by removing it. Actually, let's delete the whole question. And let's say I wanted to put that picture actually as part of the question. Notice when I click to edit and I hover, that image thing appears. Did you see that? It appears right here. So when I click on that, I can then now look for that beach picture. And I'm going to hit select. And now that picture is now going to be underneath my question. It looks a lot better with the multiple choice answers right underneath. Okay. The other thing that I can do, and I'm going to go up to my multiple choice question. When you use multiple choice, I can add images as multiple choice. So if I wanted to bring images in there, let's say I was asking students about their shapes and I had circle and square and triangle, and I wanted them to remember what they were, I might want to find a picture of a sand shovel. So I'm going to hit sand shovel. And there's a picture of a sand shovel. Hit select. So now it's going to pop that picture right with the answer. Now let's see what that looks like by hitting preview here. It's great. Now I don't have pictures for the others. I should add them. And that makes that question look really nice, especially for students that are visual. Okay. If I have different math equations or different science terms, I can add images. So if you have old Word documents or old tests that you have online, or you have old sheets, you can go in and screen capture those different parts of that and just pop them right in as images. If you just don't want descriptions and you just want them to say A, B, C, D, it's simple. I can just make this A, make this B, and then just show the pictures. So that's a way that I can do that. So that's a quick way to add some images into your Google Forms. So I'm going to go back here. Third and last part here, we're going to take a look at the menus. These can be intense at times. I'm going to have you explore add-ons later, if at all, because they can get you really caught up. Colors and custom headers, previewing your form, a lot of the settings, how to send your form out, and then some different file options when you're using your form. So these are all aesthetic, but they are important. I'm going to start with the most important one, and that's this gear wheel right here. So when I click on this, these are all the settings for my form. Now, I'm doing this after I show you the basics of a form. When you begin to make your own and get used to them, you'll probably want to start out with settings before you do any response things or anything. Do I want to collect email addresses? If I click on that, it's going to let the person know that I'm collecting email addresses. So when I hit save and then I go to preview my form, notice it's now giving me a message here. Your email address will be recorded. When forms are anonymous, this will not be here. If you want to collect people's email address, you either have to ask the question to get it or click on that. So let me get out of my thing there, back to my settings. Do I want response receipts? In other words, once someone finishes the form, do they want an email that's going to send them their responses? You can do it automatically by saying always, or give the respondent an option of whether or not they want it or not. So I'm going to click off on that, excuse me. For my domain and StarPoint, I can restrict the form to just those that are in the StarPoint school district domain. In other words, somebody who has an @starpointcsd.org email address, okay, or domain. This is good for schools and kids because it keeps the forms closed. And if someone else were to get the link, they wouldn't be able to fill it out unless they were logged in as a school district student. This is important when you don't want kids to fill out the form multiple times. You want to click on this, limit to run response. If you remember when I went at the end, it said submit another response. That submitted another response will go away when I click to limit one response. When I'm working with kids, I always like to hit edit after I submit, so kids can have a chance to go back and fix something that they didn't like. I usually don't do the summary charts unless you really want people to see how everybody else is responding. I want to show you real quick what that looks like in the preview. So I'm going to choose this. I know the form's pretty jacked up. Let me call it a ball. How hot is too hot for the beach? I'm going to stick with 100. I'm going to take it, make a different name here. I'm going to hit next. Notice there's my video right there. I'm going to hit submit. Now notice it doesn't say submit another response. It only asks me to edit the response. Now notice it's called introductions here. Somehow my title got changed. But when I hit edit, it's going to let me go back and change what I did. So that's kind of nice, especially if you want students to go back and make mistakes or if they hit submit and they shouldn't have. Back in the settings again, presentation. I can give them a progress bar, especially if it's long, to show them how many questions they have left. If I'm doing something that's maybe a quiz related, or maybe I just don't want kids to look at each other's, I can shuffle the question order so they're not all on the same one at the same time. That's because I have clicked here, limit to one response. If I click off of that, notice this show link to submit another response will pop up. This is grayed out and it is changeable. So if I wanted to give the kids directions, when finished, please take out your notebook. Or if I don't want to give the kids directions and I just want to say thank you, I can say thanks for your response. And I might tell them I will show results soon. So I can customize this at the end, and that will help that. There's one other tab here called quizzes. You can make your form a quiz if you'd like, with point values and everything by clicking on this. This part right here that I'm highlighting is in beta format. It's not available to everybody yet. I signed up as a Google trainer for it. One of the problems with taking a quiz on forms is that kids can click around on other things. Unless you have a Chromebook management device or a computer management device, it's tough to stop them from doing that. Locked mode forces the students, when they start the quiz, to only be on that screen and they can't go anywhere else. I've tested it a couple times. It's getting better every time they make a change to it. It is wonderful because it stops the kids from navigating to other places. When I turn something into a quiz, I can release a grade right away. I can do it later after I manual review. Do I want my students to see any missed questions or correct answers or point values? So when I hit save, notice what it did to my form now. I have an answer key that I have to add to it, so I have to pick the right question, and then I have to control the points. Again, that's if my form is a quiz. And then it will have a spreadsheet of results and give me a percentage and how many points out of the quiz they got right or wrong. You can see I got my score tab there now when I added that quiz feature. I'm going to turn that off for right now because I don't want it to be a quiz. Hit the toggle. Again, this is not something you have to do. Give it a try if you'd like, but you don't have to do it. It used to be a separate add-on, which I'll show you now, but now it's a regular part of Google Forms. This little thing here is called Addons. Again, I don't want you to mess around with this too much. I have a bunch that I've used. It shows the ones that you have currently. If you want to get to the add-on store, you have to click on the three little dots over here, go down to add-ons, and then a store comes up that has all these add-ons to make your form more, I guess, serviceable. This is a whole other, I could do another whole 30, 40 minutes just on these. If you want to explore them, you're more than happy to. And there's a lot of YouTube videos on each of these to show you how to do them. So I went up here and I showed you settings. I showed you add-ons. Now we're going to look at this little kind of, I call it the Bob Ross painting. Bob Ross used to hold that painter. If you're familiar with him, hold that big thing with all his paint on it. And that's what this is supposed to be. So when you click on this, it will allow you to have an image for a header. So when I hit choose image, I might want to use these this guitar. So I hit that. And notice the blue part at the top will change to an image, and it's going to make a nice theme color. I can change those theme colors. As I click on it, you can see these on the thing on the side change. I can hit plus. I can add a yellow to the theme color if I'd like. It makes it a little brighter. I have background colors that I can change. I can change the font. There's 4. They keep adding. Playful's newer to me. I can change that. Notice it changed the font. So there's a lot we can do to this. That's the theme options there. Notice also when I customize my theme, I hit image uploaded. If you scroll down, you can upload your own photos, and you can look in your own album. So if I upload photos, I can drag a photo from my computer that I currently have and actually do that and customize what my form will look like. Again, it takes some playing with the image, but it's nice to be able to make the form the way you want it to look. All right, so I'm going to X out of that. So that's that. I showed you the preview. Let's go over to the three dots before we hit send. I can make a copy of the form. There's the undo button if I make a mistake. I can move it to trash. I can get a pre-filled link with the form, the link pre-filled out for me. Really don't need that yet. But when I click on this, you can see it's going to give me a link already set up. It says pre-fill the responses, then click get link. If I want some responses answered already, I can click on them if there's a mistake and then send that link out. I've never used it, but it's an option. So we click off of that. I also can add collaborators. So this is super important. Our typical sharing doesn't work this way. When I click on add collaborators, this is going to allow people to work on this form with me. In other words, be able to edit it. So if two of you teachers are working on this together, or you're working with someone in your department, that's when you'd use that. Script editor, we're going to completely stay away from that. Those of you that are into coding, you can use the script editor to code the form to make it do a lot more things than what I'm showing you now. There's how to manage the add-ons, and then preferences down at the bottom. How do I want my forms to be default when I actually create them? Do I always want to collect email addresses? Do I want to make all the questions required? What's my default quiz point value? If you fill these in, every time you open up a form, they will automatically be set that way. That's kind of nice, so you don't have to keep clicking on things. It will remember your personal preferences, okay? Now, the last little thing here, I'm getting away from my thing. I showed you the forms. I got to show you how to send them out. Then we'll get to the beach work. So when I hit send, another box pops up, okay? I can send the form a bunch of different ways. Again, I have this option to automatically collect email addresses. I can send it via email. Type in my email. There's my message. I can change that message. I can change the subject. I can either include the form in the email, so when they open it up, it's already there, or it just has a link for them to click on and go somewhere else. I can also add collaborators from here, okay? I can add it to Facebook. I can add it to Twitter, buttons that are nice that are in there. If I want to send it out via a link, now this is important for you guys. Most likely, this is the link that you're going to share with me. Let me say that again. This is the link that you're going to share with me. So you're going to probably copy this and send this to me in an email. You're also going to go up into the beach responses, your responses that you've created, and you're going to hit the share button to share this link with me so I can see that you have responses. So that's what you're going to do in terms of turning in your form, okay? If you'd like me to be a collaborator and you want to share it with me that way, by going here and adding me as a collaborator, I'm fine with that. I'll be able to see everything that way. So you can either share your work with me in the collaborating or via this link. Let me hit send this way. There's one more thing I can do with it. For those of you that are familiar with embed codes, I can embed this right into my website. So when someone comes to a website, they can just see it, depending on what website you use. Again, this is a little more advanced, but for those of you that like to embed things, this is something that you can use. So let's go back to our slide presentation. There's the menus there. Now it's time to make your own. Here's the beach work. I want you to create your own Google form that has the required elements in it that are over there on the right. When you finished, and I just kind of mentioned that, you should share both the form and the spreadsheet that has your responses. And there's my email address there. In your form, have at least a title with a description. At least 3 types of questions. I want you to have at least 3 questions in there. Again, if you're making this for your own classroom and you have more, that's great. I want you to kind of make something that maybe you can use in the future. Maybe it's something you link onto your website so parents can actually fill out information. For my classroom, I don't have parents fill out pieces of paper they send back to me. I send them a QR code of the form, or I send them the actual link to the form on my website, and I have them go there and type in information that I need. Because parents can do that right from their phones and their tablets. Try to add some images. I showed you how to do that. Make all the questions required so I know that you know where the toggle box is. And you should take the form at least once, maybe twice, so that there are responses. If you have a response sheet, you got to have responses on it. And then create the associated spreadsheet with the form. Remember, when you're in your responses, it's this little button here that'll create the spreadsheet for you. It's just a simple click and you should be good. You can see I have multiple answers now, so it looks a nice little pie chart. I love multiple choice questions and forms because they give you this really nice data breakdown on what everybody picked and how many people picked it. It's kind of nice. So I have some other things at the end. A few other things that I found along the way that might be useful for you. Hopefully take a look at it. How to use Google Forms in classrooms, 9 uses of new Google Forms in a classroom, how to submit drawings as answers. And if any of you are Pinterest people, if you go onto Pinterest and search out Google Forms, you will find a lot of gold there for you to take a peek at. Again, this is all extra stuff. Mainly, I want you to spend your time on the beach work. Thanks for listening to the video. If you have any questions, there's my email again. Please shoot this out at me. And hopefully you're enjoying Google on the Beach course. And this was fun with forms. See ya.